Live stream of Bitcoin and markets. My name is Ansel Lindner. I am streaming on YouTube, Twitter, and Telegram, so you guys can join me in any of those places. Best audio quality will be on Telegram due to the Restream software. When I do a lot of charts and reading off of web pages and stuff, and when I switch between those, it's still having some clipping on the audio, but trying to work with that, trying to fix that and improve that. But yeah, join me on Telegram, t.me/Bitcoin and markets. We have a growing community over there, tons of conversation going on every day. We are sitting at 372 subs. I'd like to be at 37,000 subs, but yeah, we are growing there. And you guys commenting and stuff, very, very insightful. And you bring up a lot of great topics, great articles. I do have one from the other day that I could go through on this live stream. Let's see where it was. It was quasi-inflation of 2021 and 2022, a case of bad analysis and worse response. It was shared by Shiva Hodl, and really, really good article. We'll see if I have time to go through that. But what I have planned for today is going over some charts, going over the free weekly newsletter that's coming out today, Monday. So you can also go to bitcoinandmarkets.com. If you're watching, if you're new to my content, you can go to bitcoinandmarkets.com and sign up to be a free member over there. Also, I am announcing a new tier. So what I have been doing on the Bitcoin Fundamentals Report, that's the free newsletter, I had different sections, and like a headline section, a price section, a mining, and a lightning. And sometimes I write about altcoins, but not very often. And the price section has always been kind of unwieldy. This is issue number like 228, I believe. So, in the history of writing the newsletter, I've gone through several iterations where I would take out the price section and make it its own post for members, and then I put it back in, trying to build up the subscriber list and all that. But the most recent feedback that I've gotten from a few different people is that the price section, it just dominates the whole thing. And I also believe that the price section has the most value for readers. So I'm going to split that off and make that a separate tier on the website and see what we can do. To price that tier, I went around and looked at some other people's, macro forecasters out there and looked at their pricing. I put it under most of their pricing, and I think that I've been very, very accurate on the macro forecasting over the last couple years. So I do think there is a lot of signal there, and I hope to attract people to that particular service, and we'll see how that goes. But that's going to start this week. So the free newsletter is still going to have a price section, but it's going to be vastly pared down, and hopefully it will match. Most people that probably get the free newsletter, they just want a quick summary of the news items, what's going on, maybe some of my thoughts on different matters, and that's it. They're not going to spend the time to look at detailed charts and stuff like that. So I think that's a separate audience, and that's what I'm going to do. We'll see how that goes over the next few months, and we'll go from there. So expect that today. Okay, let's get into the headlines for Bitcoin. And what am I writing about here today? The main topic that I see out there is the ordinal debate. And can I show this? I should be able to show this on the screen. I was not prepared for this, but let me see. God, I can't do that, I don't think, because I'm using different browsers. I don't think I can do that. Okay, well, for the ordinals, it's becoming a big thing. And a lot of longtime subscribers that are in Telegram, they're like, oh, this is not a big deal, and that's exactly what I'm leaning towards. I remember it does feel a little bit like the beginnings of the SegWit debate. I never expected it to get as big as it did. And throughout, I was pretty confident in my assessment of the outcome, but it was still a very, very big deal in the space. Yet, what happened to the price during that time? There was a huge bull market on for all of 2016 and 2017. During the height of this debate, we had a bull market going on. So the price alone should have told you that there was nothing really to the debate. But anyway, this ordinal thing strikes me as very similar. And I am not concerned, even though a lot of people in the space are concerned, calling it an attack on Bitcoin. It is kind of an attack on Bitcoin, but so is a spam attack, right? If I think what happened a lot during the scaling conflict was Roger Ver was spamming the network. He was sending himself a bunch of very low Satoshi fee transactions, spamming up the network, pushing the fees up, which then, gave some legitimacy to the idea that we need bigger blocks, right? So that was an attack on Bitcoin, yet it wasn't really an attack on Bitcoin. They were using Bitcoin the way it was designed, and yeah, fees were higher, but, they just wasted money. And the same thing with this ordinal thing. If the fees go up, if there's problems, that it will just work itself out with the incentive structure that Bitcoin has. The Bitcoin main layer or the consensus layer was never going to be scaled to 8 billion people. Even the Lightning Network is iffy if it can scale to 8 billion people, because the Lightning Network needs a transaction for every channel, right? Well, you can't have 8 billion transactions out there. That means that there's going to be UTXOs for everybody, and probably many, many UTXOs for 8 billion people. That is hard to see being viable. Okay, so even the Lightning Network, it can scale in transaction throughput, and it can scale in speed, and it can scale in all those things, but it can't scale in UTXOs. That is kind of the hindrance there of the consensus layer. And for that, I believe we need something like sidechains. So we have the distributed base layer or consensus layer. Then you have different layer twos. Lightning being a permissionless layer two that works great, and it can scale to a certain degree and in certain aspects. But sidechains also they have a different consensus model. Right now they're federated. That's the main idea there. So you have a group of 15, 20, however many signers, block signers, and it's federated. So you have different rules, but you have the same unit of account, which is pegged to Bitcoin. And that really, if you think about it, like a sidechain does resemble a commodity peg to a currency, like backed by gold. And in that case, backed by Bitcoin. So you peg in a Bitcoin you can use within that jurisdiction, which I would say sidechains are kind of like jurisdictions or proxies for different legal jurisdictions. And then you can do stuff inside of that sidechain, and that sidechain will be able to be maintained by the owners of that sidechain, the federation. So I don't know. There's a lot of different ways we can scale Bitcoin. I don't think there's any one solution out there, but the main point is to keep the base layer, the consensus layer, distributed and free. But anything on top of that, what is this? Hold on a second. I got a notification. I hope my PC does not restart. It says my PC needs to restart right now, but I'm trying to delay this. Okay, hopefully that doesn't do anything. So yeah, the Bitcoin, this ordinal debate, we'll learn. It gives us an opportunity to do exactly what I'm doing right now and talk about these things and kind of figure out how Bitcoin works, how Bitcoin will scale, what the future looks like for Bitcoin, and inform our investment decisions, inform our how we allocate our own time, resources, and things like that. So it's very important to have these type of debates, but also it strikes me as there's nothing else to debate. So we're debating this ordinal thing. People aren't worried about GBTC anymore. They're not worried about a cascading bankruptcies going on in the Bitcoin space anymore. They're worried about the actual network, the consent, how consensus works, those types of things, how Bitcoin scales. So it's a very good sign that we are having this debate right now at the beginning of a bull market. I mean, it just fits perfectly with where I think Bitcoin is as a project, as a movement, and as a market cycle. It just makes tons of sense. But overall, don't be too concerned about this. Okay, what else do I write about? I write about Charlie Munger. He opened his mouth and did a silly statement about Bitcoin is stupid and that it, but he also, I think, exposed some of the elite thinking behind Bitcoin or about Bitcoin. And that is that Bitcoin has the opportunity to undermine the Federal Reserve System and the national currency system. Now, it doesn't really, it's like I just talked about with the federated sidechains. It's not that it's going to undermine the system, it's that the system has to change. What is used as money has to change. And the elites are starting to figure this out. Even Charlie Munger, in a diss, had to admit that Bitcoin was threatening to remake the system. So I think that's a very positive thing. And then, of course, he praised totalitarian communists instead of free market capitalism, which is what he made his money with, free market capitalism. So yeah, he's just, what is he, 99 years old? Michael Saylor had a good retort. He said, are you going to take your investment advice on technology from your great great grandfather? No, no, you're not. Okay, what other news do we have? This Chinese spy balloon story, man, it just won't die. I don't think it's a big deal at all. And I talked about it on Friday, I think, in the live stream. And what I come to see this as is just a breakdown in international trust. So any story that can be kind of skewed or spun to amplify the China bad, Russia bad, East versus West kind of mantra out there, it will be picked up and played in that way. And it just shows how far we've come in the breakdown in international trust and the breakdown in globalization. I think this spy balloon story is really a non-story except for that. It signals that globalization is done for, it's over, and it's not coming back. So at least for the foreseeable future, a couple generations, 4 more turnings or so. Okay, price analysis. I did share a few charts there in Telegram. Let me go down here. Really interesting. Bitcoin, it's still in this channel. It's trying to fight and stay in this channel. I'll share this on the screen. Go to here. So here is the Bitcoin price. And last week I drew this channel and I said, if we repeat history, this happened both in 2019 and 2016 and all the times going up. When we start a bear market, we have these periods of consolidation that consolidate in a ascending channel. Then they have a little breakdown, a fake out, and the bears, will jump on and be like, "Oh, I told you the bear market or the bull market's not back. The bear market is still on," right? And so then these bears will jump on this. Yet all of the indicators have now reset, and the price is ready to go onto the next leg higher. So that's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm expecting to happen. It's working out pretty close to what I have been predicting. I can bring up the RSI. You can see it's down at 63. I've talked about it getting back to neutral at around 50. And for that to happen, we need maybe a couple green days and a couple red days this week, and we'll be back reset at 50, ready to take off on the next leg higher. Let's see if there was a gap opened on CME. I mean, there's some gaps here down below. Gaps usually get filled. And let me share this with Telegram. And the reason gaps usually get filled is because of the Schelling point effect. That is where people are, their attention is centered around that position, and it's a self-reinforcing prophecy. I wonder what this red line was. I haven't looked at this particular chart in a long time, but yeah, that red line looks to be significant. It's a remnant from a couple years ago, I think. Anyways, now there's different types of gaps. Most gaps get filled. However, at a trend change, you can get what are called continuation gaps, and they usually don't get filled. If we go back in the history of Bitcoin, because that's where people are expecting, oh, I'll just buy when it comes back and fills the gap, but it doesn't happen. So actually, no, they're called breakaway gaps, and you can see this one back from, when was this? What year are we looking at here? Is this 2020? August of 2020. I'll post this to Telegram. And you can see here in August of 2020, the gap was half filled or slightly filled. It wasn't even halfway filled. And people are waiting for it to fill completely before they buy, and yet the market doesn't satisfy them, and they get left, right? And then they have to chase later, like probably back, a month later, they say, oh man, this is breaking out again, and I never got in. So now they get FOMO, and that's what really pushes the price higher. So these breakaway gaps are important as well. Here's another one from December of 2020 that never came back and got filled. I mean, it did get filled. This one ended up getting filled. If we extend this way over to present day, I mean, it did get filled eventually. Let's see if it did. I mean, even if we drag it back over here, it didn't get filled until November. Well, when is that? September of 2020. Oh, sorry, 2022. So that's a long time to wait to fill that gap. But yeah, we might not fill this. It might be the case where price dips back down to 20,000 or 20,500, doesn't satisfy that filling of the gap, and everybody's left waiting to get in. So that's something to watch out for. Okay, let's go to dollar. This is one that I've been waiting so long for this bounce. And guys that have been listening to my content for a while now, I'm waiting for the dollar to bounce, and it looks like it has. It's up now to 103. I'm pretty sure I shared this in Telegram. Did I share the dollar? No. I shared another dollar chart this morning, but I didn't share my own dollar chart. So right now you can see it's approaching the high from back in 2016. It kind of bounced in this COVID high area that I have labeled here at around 101. 101.5, 101.8, whatever that was. And now we're going up. I still expect this to enter a higher range for multiple years. I think we're not going to have a dollar wrecking ball anytime soon again. But if we zoom out back to post GFC, so let me squeeze this down here. I'm on a weekly chart. We're post GFC, and I highlighted this red one was a dollar wrecking ball. So this one would also be a dollar wrecking ball. And we can move this over to be here. And so this is a dollar wrecking ball zone as well. But you can see what happened after this period. We went sideways for a very long time in a new kind of range. So, I mean, this one lasted from 2015 all the way to 2022. I don't think we're going to have to wait that long. But even if you go back here to the Great Financial Crisis, we were pretty much range bound for about 4 or 5 years. Then we had a dollar wrecking ball in 2015. And then we went sideways in a range. And then we had dollar wrecking ball. And I think we're just going to find a new range and go sideways here a little bit. Maybe 2, 3, 4 years of a dollar at a higher high. So, and in that period, I mean, if you look here, 2015 to 2017 or whatever, the dollar was going sideways and Bitcoin was going higher, right? Even if you look at 2019 and 2020, dollar was sideways to slightly higher, and Bitcoin had its bull market. So I don't think this period of time is going to affect the Bitcoin price. I think the dollar wrecking ball is over, and now it's time for a Bitcoin bull market. Okay, stocks. Let's take a quick look at stocks. Go back to the daily. It's in Telegram. I mean, this looks really good from a bullish perspective. We have a higher high, a higher low, and now another higher high. So I do think that this is looking good for a continuation to the upside. Of course, there can be consolidations along the way. We're going to get faked out. The bulls will get faked out. The bears will get faked out. All this stuff along the way. But really, looking at this chart, there's nothing to say that a recession is imminent, that things are getting worse. It looks like things are beginning to look better. And one of my kind of themes of my analysis here in macro is most people are wrong. And the market is going on this large generational cycle, where the credit bubble from the last 75 years is popping. And so the market is trying to work that out. And that's going to take years. The fourth turning takes many, many years to work itself out. But in that time, what's going to happen is a lot of dollars are going to find their way back to the United States. And it's going to pump up asset prices in the United States relative to the rest of the world. So when there was, and I know there's Japanese companies that do this. I think there's think tanks in the US that do this as well. Like, how long is it going to be until China overtakes the United States in GDP? Well, they were saying, by 2025. Now they've almost unanimously pushed it back to 2035, 2040, 2050 before China overtakes the United States. Well, what happens if the next 5 to 10 years, the next decade, is mainly the U.S. market doing better while else slows down? And there's big recession in China, big recession in Europe, where the U.S. market is generally untouched. Asset prices are going to go a lot higher. U.S. share of global GDP is going to go up, even as we are going into a period of deglobalization. If we're in a period of deglobalization, do you want to put your money into China or United States? Do you want to put it in Davos-controlled Europe or the United States? And I'm not saying the United States is perfect. I'm saying it's better. Your money is going to be treated better. And it's also like a Schelling point. It's 20% of global GDP, probably going to be 25 in the next decade. I mean, it's just a Schelling point for where money is going to go. So there's no reason to have a massive bear market at this time in U.S. stocks, in my opinion. And of course, Bitcoin, that same story that I just outlined for why U.S. stocks will go higher, also applies to Bitcoin. Because as we deglobalize, we want to have a neutral reserve currency. And the US dollar is not that, at least an unbacked US dollar. We have to back it with a commodity. That will happen in our lifetimes. I'm over 40 now, and it will happen in my lifetime that we're going back to a commodity backed currency. And so, which commodity are they going to choose? Is your money on gold or is it on Bitcoin? I don't think there's a third choice. So if we go back to a commodity backed money, those are your choices, gold or Bitcoin. I mean, I still have some of my gold, which I'm waiting for silver to pump so I can just dump it. I probably should dump it and buy Bitcoin with it right now. But I still have some precious metals, very little compared to Bitcoin, but I still have some of that. And really, if you ask me the probability of if we're going to gold or Bitcoin, I would say the probability is about my portfolio, the percentage of gold to Bitcoin. I think it's a much higher percentage or probability that we're going to a Bitcoin standard. And eventually we will. Okay. A gold standard can only delay a Bitcoin standard it could delay it by a generation or two, I think, but it won't delay it forever. As long as Bitcoin can continue to maintain its consensus layer in a distributed fashion, a free market neutral currency, then Bitcoin will end up winning. So that is all I have to say about that. All right, what else do we have here? Pretty much a slow news day, but what I'm going to do now is open up the mic on Telegram to see if you guys have any topics you want to talk about. I might have missed something here. I get rambling and I lose all the different topics that I had in my head that I was going to talk about. Let me do a quick survey of the Telegram to see if I've forgotten anything. All right, I don't think so. All right, so I'm going to open it up now to guys listening over on Telegram, and what I'll do is I'll relay that to YouTube and Twitter. So if you guys have any comments or you want to bring up a different topic or let me, tell me what you're reading out there, what news items that you're paying attention to, you can do that now. I think what I'll do for that article that I talked about at the beginning, the quasi-inflation of 2021, 2022, I will have a whole episode just dedicated to that. So I won't get into that here today. Questions, comments, concerns from Telegram. Anybody over there? Just raise your hand and I'll bring you in. If not, all right, going once, going twice. All right, that's it for today, guys. Thanks for joining me. Ansel Lindner, Bitcoin and Markets. Check out bitcoinandmarkets.com. Make sure you sign up for the free weekly newsletter. Comes out on Mondays. Also, check out the new tier. It's the Premium Market Pro tier, and that will be all price-oriented. Lots and lots of charts going on there. All right, guys. Well, have a good day, and I'll check you on the next one. Bye.